There were allegations after allegations. There were investigation after investigation. There was litigation after litigation, and none of it produced one scintilla of evidence to say that there was any wrongdoing in terms of the administration of the 2020 elections in Fulton County.
Is not running this database to check for non-citizens, rather than us just putting out press releases that we have no non-citizen on our voter rolls. That's not true. We're looking at 7 cases or 9 cases right now of non-citizens on the voter rolls. And these are just 2 counties of 159 counties in this state. We could do better than this.
And then on top of that, if you have someone who does get a jury summons and decides that they want to go and sit on our jury, even though they're a non-citizen, then we don't catch them. So for people that are saying, oh, it's just 9 people, it's just 9 people that happen to do the right thing. We have a lot of other people out there that may be on the rolls that haven't, especially when we have inflated and dirty voter rolls.
How many non-citizens does Fulton County have on its voter rolls at this time?
I don't know.
I'm not aware of a database that we
I don't think they
easily
because they have
check.
to have their ID.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another one on the Unaffiliated Mind. And today we're going to be discussing the state election board's meeting regarding the allegations of voter fraud in Georgia. Now, if I can frame everything up into this one saying or just a phrase in general, is that you don't know until you look. You know, I think it's important to clarify a few things as we watch these clips today. And one of the first points I want to hit on is that citizens and non-citizens shouldn't be automatically blamed when they rely in good faith on voting processes established at the local and state level. They shouldn't be blamed for that at all, because those institutions carry a primary responsibility to enforce the laws that they create. And when systems lack clarity, accountability, or proper verification, the integrity of the election process is placed at risk. Now, let me address a common presupposition that I expect to hear, at least, as long as I make these videos. I would say that if you're watching and immediately argue in the comment section about voter ID laws are equivalent to a poll tax under the 24th Amendment, without clear evidence and legal grounding, you're missing the point of the conversation. That argument relies more on emotional framing than substantiated claims, and it doesn't engage the core question as far as how the election systems should balance access, verification, and accountability. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the first clip right here.
The state election board is meeting for the first time today since last month's FBI raid at a Fulton County elections office. The DOJ seized hundreds of 2020 ballots and other documents as part of a federal investigation into allegations of voter fraud. Fox 5's Deidre Dukes has monitored the day-long meeting. She's live at the state capitol. And Deidre, some faith leaders held a news conference as that meeting got underway in Winder.
That's right, they did, and they condemned last month's raid, calling it a threat to Georgians' voting rights. Meantime, we are watching and waiting for the state election board to weigh in on that federal raid.
I'm calling to order the February 18th, 2026 meeting of the Georgia State Election Board.
The state election board meeting for the first time since the FBI raid at the Fulton County election hub, as Republican Senator Greg Dolezal renewed calls for the board to take over Fulton County elections.
There's a provision in Georgia law that's been there for a couple of years now that allows the state to step in when counties go rogue, like what Fulton County has done.
We have fought too long for this right to vote.
Yeah.
We understand its power.
Faith leaders held a news conference outside the historic Barrow County Courthouse as the meeting got underway in Winder Wednesday, calling for a major effort to register voters, boost engagement, and increase turnout at the polls.
We need to recognize that not only are our communities under attack, but so are our liberties.
This is a criminal investigation.
The January raid followed failed efforts by the State Election Board and Department of Justice to force Fulton County officials to turn over 2020 voter records. Today's lengthy agenda includes an update on the board's earlier attempt to subpoena those same documents. Critics accuse the Republican-led board of trying to seize control of Fulton County elections ahead of the 2026 primaries.
There were allegations after allegations. There were investigation after investigation. There was litigation after litigation, and none of it produced one scintilla of evidence to say that there was any wrongdoing in terms of the administration of the 2020 elections in Fulton County. Therefore, what we're dealing with is a witch hunt.
Now, at last check, the meeting was still underway. It could go late into the evening. It's a very lengthy agenda, and so it was announced at the beginning of today's meeting that if they did not get through that agenda today, it would continue into tomorrow. They pick things back up on Thursday morning. But at some point, we do expect to hear from the state election board and also members of the public who will address that FBI raid. At the state capitol, Deidre Dukes, Fox 5 News.
All right, Deidre.
You know, when individuals are making those claims in regards to we didn't find anything at all, like there's nothing to see here, this is a witch hunt, this is President Trump not able to cope with the fact that he lost Georgia. You know, but as we kind of look into the state election board and what they're reviewing and what they're seeing here, it kind of gives you an idea as far as like behind the curtains, as far as how things may not be as, I guess, you know, sure or certain, as far as like how ones are looking at their electoral process and understanding like the safeguards that are in place to protect the integrity of this. So without further ado, I do want to jump into the other video that it's lengthy, I would say, but I think that it provides context to how these conversations are transpiring in the background. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the next clip.
Even without voting, because it relates more to contact with the voter. So if someone goes in and they update their address with DDS, a lot of times that will, even if they've been in inactive status, it kicks them back into active status. And that's just like an automatic thing that occurs.
This is the Fulton County Attorney. Just for clarity here, this is the Fulton County Attorney, and I believe this is a member of the board that helps count the ballots here. But anyways, they're talking with the Georgia State Election Board, and they're explaining their process to them as far as like how they're tracking things and how they're constantly making updates to make sure that they're protecting the integrity of the system. So I do want to provide that clarity there, to be fair in this instance, and just go forward from there. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive back into it.
There's not an easy way that I know from the county perspective to go through and to be able to verify whether someone is truly a citizen or not, that were registered prior to the change. I don't know if the Secretary of State has access to other databases or something that can run that kind of search. I don't know, but I know from the county perspective, we don't really have a way to do that.
So basically from a state level, there's really there's not a solid way to verify whether a person is a citizen or non-citizen on our voter rolls.
Not that the
unless they check their box and say
happens.
I'm a non-citizen, or they get a pre-summons.
They get some, like say if they get a precinct card, precinct changes to make you get a precinct card and they realize, why am I getting this? I'm not, I can't vote. They may call the office, but I'm not aware of a sort of way for us to go from the start. So there are ways where people may realize, because these individuals probably did get precinct card notices and other information.
But they did their job. They said that they were not a citizen.
No, I agree.
Right. I don't want to prolong it because I think we're kind of repeating ourselves. So this is my last point.
No, and I don't want to place any blame on these voters. I mean,
no, I don't have any blame on the voters. The voters did what they were supposed to do. The voters did what they were supposed to do. They did it twice, actually.
Yeah.
They checked that they're a non-citizen on their registration card. They still were registered. And then they checked that they were a non-citizen when they got their jury summons. Thank God, because now that alerted you all and you were able to address it, which I appreciate. I'm glad you did that. But it still puts us in a position where we're looking at this from a state level. And what I'm hearing is that there is no statewide method of determining whether someone's a citizen or a non-citizen, because we're just sitting on this honor system. And this is the honor. Thank God the honor system worked this time. But if they check, yes, I'm a citizen, they have a driver's license, and let's say they showed up for jury duty. I mean, we have non-citizens that can do this. I know we haven't gotten to the cab yet, but we have people who voted 11 times. I mean, this is and this is not on the county, I guess, because the county doesn't have a way of determining if there were
clerical errors. Yeah, if there were clerical errors in the past, there's not easy way for us to go back.
Well, in the future either, right? There's not a way to do it in the future, like now, right?
No, right. If we were to look at it in the future, but
yeah,
at least for people registering now, it's much less likely to happen because there are so many steps.
They
But
have
as
to
far
show
as
an
people
ID
who are
or
already registered.
What are they showing? Because if they have a driver's
When they
license, is
come
that what they
into
can upload and say that show proof of citizenship? What do they need to show?
Their driver's license says non-citizen, and they have to show us the another document. If their driver's license says non-citizen, they have to show us another document to prove their citizenship, naturalization paperwork. And we have to actually choose which document we're using.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Glenn,
Yes.
does the driver's license say non-citizen?
No, but we check motor voter, which tells us who's a citizen and who, if they're non-citizen.
Look at that. Providing documentation. Is that a poll tax that they have to provide this additional documentation here? I don't think it is. I don't think it is at all. Again, if you could provide something like legal grounding, I would say, and evidence of that, then I'm more than willing to hear your arguments. Really, I am. I mean, I know we're talking about non-citizens here, but is this Jim Crow with them having to have these documentations available to, prove their citizenship? If that's the case, then Jim Crow's been going on for quite some time now. If that is the argument that's being framed, because that's the argument that I'm getting whenever I mention something about the SAVE Act. If there is legal grounding and there's evidence out there to show that this is Jim Crow 2.0, or maybe this is 1.5 or 1.2, I don't know. But they have to show their legal documentation is what I'm getting at here. So I don't see there's anything wrong with that. So miss me in the comments about the 24th Amendment, please. I digress.
So you do have a way
Is there an indicator on a driver's license for a non-citizen that indicates that they are not a citizen, a U.S. citizen?
I do believe there is, but we go into the motor voter system itself, and it says if you're a citizen or a non-citizen.
So that's how you can check if you have non-citizen on your voter roll.
We can.
So you can check.
We can check, but not a database like.
Yeah, but you have a way of
submit
checking.
the voter roll.
Okay, I thought you said Fulton
Okay, well,
County.
it would have to be someone coming in with their driver's license and having.
Oh, you have to have the
Having a
driver's
check.
license to do it.
Right.
Check both.
Yeah. And currently that's not part of the process when someone comes into it. Maybe that would be a recommendation.
Ms.
for the election.
Pachuta,
Yes, sorry.
driver's licenses for non-citizens have a small bar at the top of the driver's license that says term limited. And that indicates that the license holder is a non-citizen. Does the county instruct and educate all of its poll workers and clerks to check the driver's license to see if it indicates that they are a non-citizen when they come in to vote?
I do not believe so. I do not believe that is part of the procedures because they're currently checking the identification essentially.
So a voter comes in and they have term limited on their driver's license and they get to vote.
And
They
I
happen to be on the rolls because they're a non-citizen.
I can't tell you, I don't know exactly what the driver, I don't,
Right.
I'm a citizen, so I haven't had to worry about it. I don't know the differences. That might be a recommendation. It might even be a recommendation for the legislature or for rule, to have that included with not just checking that the person in front of you is the person that's come in.
Well, counties are in charge of their elections, and I would hope that they would instruct and educate all their poll workers should not only just put the driver's license right next to the poll pad to read the number, but to actually look at the driver's license and see if there's an indicator that that they're perhaps a non-citizen. Now, they may have become a citizen, and they should have papers that indicate that, or it should be in the system that they now have their naturalization papers.
I can look into that. I'm
right. There's
not
also
familiar, but that is something I can look into.
Right. To share with this audience, there's also a federal program called SAFE, I believe it is, that will run the entire database for the state of Georgia, or certainly for Fulton County or any county, DeKalb County, to look for non-citizens. And it is free. It is free now. It used to require some payment. It is now free. I do not understand why every county or the entire state is not running this database to check for non-citizens, rather than us just putting out press releases that we have no non-citizen on our voter rolls. That's not true. We're looking at 7 cases or 9 cases right now of non-citizens on the voter rolls.
That's what I'm talking about. People are making these absolutes without really providing full context on the situation or allowing the investigation to really occur, so that if there is some type of like misstep or there's some type of error within the procedure, even though it's minute in regards to the case numbers so far and what they have discovered, it's still an issue that needs to be addressed. Because when you have these type of vulnerabilities like this could be a bigger issue than what was reported on initially. So I think that that's something to take away from this, but I digress.
These are just 2 counties of 159 counties in this state. We could do better than this.
And this is what we know because they were summoned to do jury duty and they happened to do the right thing by saying that they're a non-citizen. But if you have a bunch of people on the rolls where we have county election workers that are not trained to look for non-citizen IDs, they're just matching the voter rolls. And then on top of that, if you have someone who does get a jury summons and decides that they want to go and sit on our jury, even though they're a non-citizen, then we don't catch them. So for people that are saying, oh, it's just 9 people, it's just 9 people that happen to do the right thing. We have a lot of other people out there that may be on the rolls that haven't, especially when we have inflated and dirty voter rolls. So I think we should look at requesting counties to send their voter rolls through this system so that we can scrub these voter rolls to ensure that there aren't any non-citizens on them.
So I have a question. It's stunning to me because, we hear all the time that we don't have non-citizens voting in our elections and that kind of thing. And given the inflated voter roll numbers, and given the fact that this investigation opened the case October 22nd of 2024, and we're in February of 2026, when Fulton County was made aware that there was this investigation, what proactive steps did they take to look at other identification and that kind of thing for their voter rolls? Did they do anything extra to attempt to see if there are non-citizens who are on the rolls?
I can't answer that question directly, but again, it is harder. We don't have an easy way of just looking up, prior registered people. And I do have a note. You had mentioned 2 other people, so I believe it was Gambrell we find in the roll, but the 5th one.
You were talking about current, right?
Yeah, currently.
Currently, when you register, you have to put in that proof of citizenship.
Right. So given the fact that this investigation's been going on a while, I'm curious to find out how many, or is there any way to tell how many non-citizens does Fulton County have on its voter rolls at this time?
I don't know.
I'm not aware of a database that we
I don't think they
easily
because they
check.
have to have their ID.
Yeah. The 5th person that you had listed, was it Osage?
Say what you want about Trump in regards to how you feel about him. This is an issue here. I think this fronts out a bigger issue even with other states. Other states may operate the same way like Georgia does. At least this kind of gives individuals that are watching this maybe just questions to ask their state to see exactly what they're doing. I would say that sometimes this debate often gets stuck between 2 extremes. At least how I look at it is that either fraud doesn't exist at all or it must be a widespread matter. But both positions, I feel, miss the point. The real question is, what level of vulnerability exists in these type of situations? Taking for everything that it is on face value and how everything's being reviewed here, there are some vulnerabilities here. But get at me in the comments. And as always, please be safe. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share in Unaffiliated Mind. Until next time, deuces. Yes, sir.